Sandy's phone says it's 1 o'clock, so I will call the meeting to order. The chair notes there's a quorum present and flag salute. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, additions or revisions to the agenda? Anything? No? Okay. 3.0, correspondence, or public comment we'll start with. Individuals wishing to address the county court may do so at this time and at other times throughout the meeting. Speakers are asked to raise your hand to be recognized by the chair, give name and address, and limit comments to 3 minutes. Any public comments? Anything out there? Under correspondence, we received a letter from Carol Greenfield, and it's short enough, I'll just go ahead and read it into the record. This letter is being sent to you because you may have an interest in saving Frontier Regional 911 dispatch. This is not the same as Frontier Telenet. There is a chance that some of the board members may be planning on combining the coverage of our 4 counties, Gilliam, Sherman, Wheeler, and Jefferson, with Wasco County, which would possibly mean moving the center to the Dalles. As one of the original 6 dispatchers, this would mean the likelihood of losing most, if not all, of the current employees. Several have homes in their respective towns, husbands and or families, and doubtfully would not wish to commute or move from those homes to the Dalles to keep their employment. These are valuable, trained, and in some cases seasoned dispatchers. Finding, testing, hiring, and keeping dispatchers, and making sure that these dispatchers want not just a job but a career in helping the public is not nearly as easy as it may seem. Ask any of the public safety answering points, PSAPs, and most, if not all, have the same trouble finding and keeping these valuable employees. Moving these current dispatchers to a new and different community would not only be unfeasible, but would defeat the local knowledge that they have developed and cherish as one of their most valuable tools. The people we serve deserve to be helped by those who want to be there for them, sometimes on the worst day of their lives. This move would most likely deplete the workforce in Condon by at least 5 or more full-time and well-paid employees. These dispatchers have families, some with children in the school system of our communities, and the jobs they fill would never come back to our area. Please take a moment to think about this, and if you feel that this move would be a good thing, then do nothing. However, if you feel that the value of Frontier Regional 911 Dispatch should remain here in Condon and continue to serve our clients, then write a letter to the Board of Directors, Frontier Regional 911 Dispatch. The chair of the board is Sheriff Gary Betancourt, Gilliam County Sheriff in Condon. The meeting where this relocation is being discussed is scheduled for March 14th. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Carol Greenfield. Okay, correspondence is done. Consent agenda.
I move we approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we approve the consent agenda, which consists of consider approval of February bills pending review, consider approval of February 20th work session minutes, consider approval of February 20th regular meeting minutes, consider approval of service agreement with Waste Management for NORCOR litter pickup work crew, consider approval of amendment to Justice Court IGA with the City of Condon, consider approval of joint resolution for community dispute resolution funding activities, consider approval of extension of fairgrounds lease agreement with Robinson Brothers Construction, consider approval of the PCDC request for release of budgeted funds, consider approval of Summit Springs Village request for release of budgeted funds, consider appointment of John Anderson, Wheatland Insurance as workers' comp of record. Is there further discussion? That is a mouthful. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Nice job. Okay. Moving on down to 5.0, unfinished business, Frontier Telenet update. This is a brief one. We had one 6-minute meeting in time since we last met.
By phone or in
by
person?
phone. The meeting that I was describing during our last meeting was actually canceled because of the weather. So the larger sort of regular meeting was canceled and has not yet been rescheduled. We met for, as I said, 6 minutes last week to approve the budget resolution for the supplemental budget. So, and it covers operating expenses. It did not cover, for instance, the bookkeeper expenses. It did not cover the telecom attorney's expenses. I asked a question specifically, making sure that our understanding was that the $200,000 that was loaned from Wheeler County and Sherman County combined, so that $100,000 from each of those counties would only be used for those funds that were, or for those uses that were specifically spelled out in the budget resolution. Chair Morley concurred that that was how we would be operating, and so it's not clear to me where the money would come from for the telecom attorney or for Jeannie's time. That was never really resolved, but it will be spent on Dave Wireless's contract, the Motorola contract, electricity, lease payments that we owe to the landowners who own the towers, those kinds of just day-to-day things. So I went ahead and supported it for that reason. And that is pretty much it that I have on it so far. I've not heard, there was a question, I think, might have been you, that Leslie, that asked about Jeannie's status.
Right.
There was a public information request to Judge Morley and Jeannie about her status, which Jim Deason responded to, in essence saying that because Jeannie's resignation was provided verbally, and her contract states that it will be provided written, that it was actually not a valid resignation, and that she has not provided a resignation in writing. So her status is still that she is the contractor handling that piece. So that's the update. Any questions about that?
Do they have it rescheduled then?
They have not. So I have not heard what the plan is for the next meeting. I guess we shall see. Okay, 5.2, discuss 2006 Willow Creek IGA for reimbursement to county by port for county improvements and advances. We got to shorten that up. So this is kind of a misnomer, but it's related, which is the alternate counsel that we determined we would be hiring to help us with this particular dispute. I contacted 3 municipal law firms, and they're listed in there: Spear Hoyt's Local Government Law Group, Bryant, Loveland and Jarvis in Bend, and Jordan Ramus that has offices in Portland and in Bend. It was a pretty tight turnaround, I will say. And so one of them got back to us, and that is the proposal in your packet. Jordan Ramus expressed interest, but ended up not submitting anything. And then Bryant, Loveland and Jarvis said, because of all the weather and stuff that was going on in Bend at the same time we were having weather here, they weren't able to get it to us in time. And so the question, I guess, for the court is, if you're happy for, I mean, we've met the procurement requirement by going out and asking for 3, so we don't actually have to have 3 come in. And I have the documentation that, all 3 firms were contacted. So the question is, are we happy with the current proposal that we received, or would we like to allow Bryant, Loveland, and Jarvis more time to submit one so that we at least have 2 to look at?
I was just concerned about the cost of the travel for the Eugene-based.
I was too. I was worried that the distance would be a problem.
And so, I mean, what we could do is, if we wanted to table this and bring it back, like I said, Bryant, Loveland, and Jarvis did say that they were planning on submitting one. They just know what happens, and they were having it in Bend. So if we wanted to table it the thing that would likely impact is that we would need to look at pushing the meeting
Right.
the 4th back.
I don't think that, yeah, I don't think we have to, we're in a huge hurry because this is an ongoing issue that's been for
Yes.
some time.
Not
And
an
I was
emergency.
going to ask, do you guys want to have that meeting first and even see if there's a need to hire an attorney? Because it may not be necessary if things could just be worked out.
Another good question.
That is a good
It is.
question.
I mean, one thing I would say on the subject of alternate counsel, I would like to raise it, is that this is not the only item where we have conflicts, and in particular with Frontier Telenet, I am often trying to represent Gilliam County's interests without counsel, which is tricky, to be frank. Because there are some significant, obviously, the board members are in significantly different places, and I think it's a challenge for Ruben to try to represent both simultaneously. And the more I hope that Frontier Telenet can be resolved in a place that is not contentious, but I don't know that we can say for sure that legal counsel may not at some place be needed.
The other problem too, it sounds like, is that we're about out of our, I mean, do we have to make it till July before we can start using Ribbon again?
So
wasn't sure how we were gonna handle that.
Nathan's aware that there's an issue that we're gonna bump up against or be probably way over our legal counsel. We're going to need to do a supplemental budget for other reasons as well. And so I think probably we're gonna just address that all simultaneously. He and Kelly will go through and just identify all the areas that need to be addressed, and this will be one of them. There is money below in our,
Consultant.
we have a consulting line item that we have quite a bit left over in, so we had talked about maybe moving that up into the.
Is it in the same category? Because if it's in the same category, it doesn't matter if we go over in one line item as long as the whole category is below 100%.
I think
Yeah, I mean, it's all
separate.
within the county court.
It's all within our.
Like
budget.
materials and services section?
I think it's the one below.
Yeah, it's not, it's the.
We'd have to move it up, I think, is what Nathan, he looked at it and
What page are you
said.
on?
It's 101, 103 is our,
Yeah. So, yeah, it's 101, 103, which is about the 5th page in, I think.
So I
That
see
doesn't
legal and
label
then.
very well.
and clear down towards the bottom, there should be a consulting. Line item.
Yes, but I think this is all, okay, personal services are above, so it looks to me that whole section is materials and services. Where if the resolution was written appropriately, you wouldn't have to move money into one line item, it's still all within our materials and services budget. Oh, unless he calls that for reserves and special payments.
Yeah.
I would have to look at the resolution, but.
Yeah. But he's aware of it, and we can fix it. So, I mean, we're gonna need a telecom attorney, time to come out of that too. So we're probably just gonna have to,
And that's a reason why, I know you guys are new to my budget resolution complaint that I make every year, but if we made our budget resolution a little less specific, it would save a little time, it would save a little money, it would save a little advertising. It would, we could do things like that without having to have that supplemental budget, but I'm done with my soapbox now.
Oh, I like your soapbox. Yeah, I learned something from your soapbox.
okay, so I think kind of what I'm saying in a roundabout way is I still think that it's important for us to have alternate counsel available for those times that are going to inevitably pop up where there's a conflict. And so, for me at least, the question is whether we would like to hold off on this specific decision today and at least have two that we can kind of have a point of comparison with. And if so, then that would just trigger needing to talk to the board about finding a later date.
Yeah, I think that's what we need to do.
Okay.
And that worked out well for me too, because I was kind of still struggling with the 27th, so if we move that,
Yeah, and again, it's been an ongoing thing and it's not,
Yeah, and
there's no emergency.
It was signed in 2006, so I feel like it's okay if we don't resolve it in the first 3 months that we take office.
Yeah.
Are we okay with that?
Not a first 100.
I'm not too sure about Spirit Boyd's name either. Did you see it's LGLG? You know, we already have LGIP and LGPI.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's kind of, that might not work.
But the one thing I would throw into this as far as like rescheduling with the port is we were trying to get this done before the budget cycle, or at least sort of in line with the budget cycle if possible. That could potentially have big impacts on both organizations that way.
Has to throw a wrinkle in, doesn't it?
Sorry.
Well, yes, but we
I'm
cannot,
not sure why it has anything to do with it. Can you explain it to me?
Because there's potential that a large amount of funding is going to be moved from one to another organization. And if that needs to be in their budget next year or our budget next year.
Well, the other thing too is that, you know, maybe you could structure, if there was money that had to be moved from one entity to the other, maybe it could be structured where it was either started the following year or, you know, they could maybe do a supplemental budget, or, you know, there might be ways around. Or they can budget for it and, you know, budget for it just in case it happens.
It should have already happened. I thought I'd just go there, but.
well,
We don't know
so,
me.
but we are assuming that that would necessarily push the budget discussion off, but how about if we plan on bringing this back, then on the 20th, we would have a decision on alternate council, and potentially we could meet early in April, even, possibly, depending on what the port's schedule looks like, before people's budgets are finalized. So I'm saying. Yeah, we can try it.
Let's try that.
Okay.
Because we
So-
definitely need it,
so-
and we need
We need
something
something.
else. Yeah.
So I will circle back with Bryant, Loveland, and Jarvis and ask them to, yes, please give us that second proposal, and then we'll put it on the next agenda to make a final decision. Okay, discuss batch plan.
So we have the extension of the current lease agreement that we just approved in the consent agenda. So as far as we're going now, the lease has stayed in place. The port is meeting next week, I believe, on the 12th. And so I don't know if someone is able to go to that, but that's when they will have their discussion about whether they're interested in taking the batch plant or not. Other than that, we're just sort of in a holding pattern, waiting to see which way they want to go. And that'll decide which way we need to go.
But we're currently in the lease on a month-to-month basis.
Yes.
Or we still need to sign it, or did you already sign that?
It hasn't been, it was just approved in
We
the
just need
consent
to-
agenda, so it hasn't
It
been signed
wasn't,
yet, but it
though.
will. Wasn't it?
Was it though?
I don't see it in there.
Oh, we need to do it right now?
There you go.
So I'm like, wait a second, I don't remember reading
Okay,
that.
then we need to approve the extension of the lease for the batch plant.
I move we approve the amendment to lease of business property with Thompson Brothers Excavating for the batch plant.
Oh my goodness, Sherry.
Second?
Oh my goodness, Sherry.
Let me find where you're, okay, I move, let me see yours. I move that we approve the amendment to the lease of business property with Thompson Brothers for the batch plant. Okay. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Okay,
Okay.
so now what we need to do is approve the sublease of the batch plant from Thompson Brothers to Hood River Sand and Gravel.
Do we have that?
I don't have a diagram or a document
We
for
don't, we
it,
haven't got it yet.
but if we go ahead and approve it, then Ruben can create one. Actually, I don't think we need to create one, we just need to approve it. I don't think we don't have a agreement between
We're just
us and
approving
them.
that they can have a,
Yeah.
So we're approving the sublease, say that again.
The sublease from Thompson Brothers Construction to Hood River Sand and Gravel.
So moved.
second.
Okay, so it has been moved and seconded that we approve the sublease from Thompson Brothers to Hood River Sand and Gravel for the batch plant. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we got everything we need on the batch plant, yes?
And I do plan to go to the 12th meeting and
Okay. If for some reason you're not able to, let me know and I'll try to go to it.
it's in town,
I believe it's at the port
it's at the port,
offices.
so if I needed to leave, so I'll be okay.
Okay,
That's my problem. I never know when I have to jump up that way.
5.4, Plant County Road Committee. So we had several letters of interest. Since Sandy sent out this, we've actually gotten more that came in. So can you, okay, so Eric would be in the
East
southeast.
is, and so would Shannon Hill.
Okay. And then Jim Wright, did we ever determine?
So Jim Wright would be in the northwest, as would Les Rourke and Frank Betancourt.
Frank Bittencourt's where?
Northwest, so because he lives north of 206, west of 19.
So technically he's in that.
He's like 100 yards.
Well, he needs to put his foot on the other side of the line.
Mhm, Funky ones, okay.
And then
And then Kent.
Kent Anderson would be southwest. And we have no one in the northeast.
We have northeast as an issue.
So, Kent's in the south. Okay. And Shannon, in her letter, basically said that she would raise her hand, but if there was somebody else that raised their hand, that she would prefer we pick that person. So kind of what I'm thinking is I'm thinking we would appoint, how far is Jim from that line? Between northwest and northeast?
The way it's written, it's you own property or reside in that zone.
But we have the flexibility to be able to appoint people if there's not a.
I think that's what it
If
says.
I recall.
I'm pretty sure that's what it says. If we don't
Yeah.
get, then we can do otherwise.
So what I'm thinking is because Jim is obviously in the north end, that maybe we could go ahead and appoint him to the northeast. And then make Frank the at-large,
There you go. And that's the northwest.
and less the northwest. So I would move that we appoint Eric Harrison to represent the southeast quadrant, Jim Wright to represent the northeast quadrant, Les Rourke to represent the northwest quadrant, Ken Anderson to represent the southwest quadrant, and Frank Betancourt to be the at-large member of the County Road Committee.
I second.
Okay, it has been moved and seconded that we appoint Eric Harrison to represent the southeast quadrant, Jim Wright to represent the northeast quadrant, Les Rourke to represent the northwest quadrant, Kent Anderson to represent the southwest quadrant, and Frank Betancourt to represent at-large on the County Road Committee. Is there further discussion?
No.
No.
Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thanks for serving, for using the room.
Thank you for your interest.
Yeah. Okay, 5.5, consider approval of special projects grant program updates. You can just approve those if we're ready.
I think we're ready.
We're ready, go for it.
I was gonna say, I'm not sure how to say it though, so if somebody else is,
I'll do it.
wants to.
That's easier for me sometimes to make the motion because I remember what I said.
Okay, go for it.
I'll move to approve that we approve the special projects grant program guidelines as worked on during today's work session.
That works. I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we approve the special projects grant program guidelines that we worked on during this morning's work session. All those, or further discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Who seconded that?
I
This
just,
lady
oh,
over here.
Leslie did. Okay, new business, 6.1, discuss request that fire services coordinator become a county employee. So this was spurred on from the letter that we received from Gary, from Sheriff Bettencourt.
Let them come up.
Do you guys want him to come in?
Do you want him to come up?
I don't know. I guess we could play that by ear if we.
Have questions? For us to consider making the fire services coordinator a county employee. And so obviously if that's something we were interested in doing, they need to know that on their budget side, because they are going through the budget process as well. Thoughts?
Well, I've discussed with several different people. Would this mean if we, that would make them a county employee as opposed to, and then who would be supervising this county employee? And where are their offices and?
I think their offices would continue to be where Shannon's are currently, so in the emergency services building in Condon. In terms of supervision, it's the board, fire services board, that supervises her currently. So, I mean, that would be something I think we would need to explore, is how, if we were going to do this, how we would structure that supervision.
Can we come up and
Sure,
give some options?
sure. Come on, give us some options.
You want me to come with you?
Yes, please. There's probably more than you can answer than I can. We did have a meeting today,
Oh, we did.
the Fire Services Board, to discuss a few agenda items and then application, how our application process is going to be. And frankly, we're just looking for a way to reduce some liability on the board. Because Shannon, the funds run through the North Gilliam Fire District, and Shannon does all of the books. What our fear is in our replacement, we may not have somebody with a strong financial background that Shannon has. So we don't know. So we're really looking for security in the books, in invoicing and billing and doing payroll.
Can you make what you're looking for there just a requirement of the position?
Well, you're throwing a lot of things in there at that point. I mean, somebody's
That
strong
isn't what we want them to
in
focus
maintenance
on.
and training and those kinds of things, may not necessarily be good at budgeting and
Can we bring it
How
into our
much-
treasurer's office?
payroll, medical, workers' comp, all of that stuff is the kind of the big issue.
Quarterly taxes.
Can we bring
Well, I
that
guess-
into our treasurer's office, though? Let them do the?
That's one thing we discussed, would be a huge benefit to us if you would take on the employee as a county employee, that would not only do some of that for us, but also assist us on the budget side of it. This is going to cost county more money. So,
And I guess I'm used to looking at it from like a perspective of being a city administrator or in the position that I have now, and Catherine is used to it too, where you just kind of have to do everything. So maybe that's not something though that
well,
everybody can.
we do have a little bit of a record with the first fire service coordinator we had, if you go way back. There was some
Yeah,
misuse.
I was involved back then.
Misuse of funds and different things like that. It's just better, and I'm sure the auditors would agree, and we want everybody else, just to avoid those situations altogether.
How many entities do we have right now, or districts that are doing this, a similar setup? I mean, because I know like in Arlington, the library, we have the Arlington Library, and at one point in time, they wanted the city to take on the librarian as a city employee, and the city said no. And so their board oversees the person, they have to do that kind of stuff. I'm wondering how many throughout the county we have right now that are in that same kind of situation.
So I can think of two offhand. One would be the Fair Board Secretary, which is run underneath the Fair Board, and the other one would be the Gilliam County Library staff, which is overseen by the Library Board. Now, the difference there is that both of those boards are appointed by the court.
They're also not taxing districts that are involved in it.
Right.
Right. And they are county employees,
They are county
though.
employees.
Yeah, I was thinking of the other alternative of not being county employees, but being an employee just of their respective board.
So one thing to consider, and we talked about this a little bit this morning at the meeting, is if the county chose just to do the books for this entity, currently, the way that I get paid is under the federal tax identification number for North Gilliam County Fire. Gilliam County Fire Services doesn't have its own tax ID number. And so that would be something that you'd have to figure out how that part of it's gonna work, because if you weren't taking the person on as an employee, then there's no tax ID number to do their payroll and all of the associated taxes under.
Right, and I remember when we first started this, it was the city of Arlington wanted to be the fiscal agent. So it was under our budget and all that.
And the IGA still shows that they are.
But they weren't a city employee.
But we could be, what's that, the 190?
The 190.
I mean, we could be our own entity,
Yeah.
but that's going to require some changes. It probably would be too hard to do.
I mean, from my perspective is of course, this is going to be our first budget for Sherry and I that we go through. I'm a little hesitant to add employees that aren't county employees, that aren't sort of things that we've decided internally are needed for the functioning, just because I don't know at this point the sustainability of that, if that's reasonable. I think I'm also a little bit concerned because there are a lot of taxing districts that are involved in overseeing this position. And to me, that's a lot of masters. And if we're funding that, and we've got 4 boards that are weighing in through the big board, you're actually talking about like 5 different boards that are weighing in on what this person should do. To me, I would need to see that be simplified before I would want to necessarily be refereeing, because I could see a situation where it's the courts providing this funding and there are multiple taxing districts that believe that this individual should be focused on here or that or this, or that this equipment's needed. That's the other issue is once an employee is on, are we responsible for all of the functioning of the office, the equipment, the normal stuff that would go with having the staff? For me, it feels like if the thing is that we're trying to figure out how to help with the payroll side, to me, the first question would be asking if that's feasible with Nathan and Ellen to take that in-house before we go down the road of hiring an employee to try to make the payroll side.
Yeah.
So having the county become the fiscal agent.
Potentially. If that's what you're after, and really trying
More
to
so,
resolve.
yes, just to get out from under that liability, because we are taking I think some risk there is history will show.
Yeah.
Not for Shannon, of course.
Not
but-
Shannon, yeah.
That's why she's leaving.
But that, and then, we can form our own 190 or whatever and kind of get a little bit more on our own. But in reviewing and going through all this, RGA has not been done since its inception. And so there are a lot of changes need to be done. Entities are paying different than what they used to do and all of that stuff. So the other ask then is if we can have the county legal counsel who drew up that original draft redo this one. To be more in line with.
Yeah, we need to do that.
And the other thing that we discussed numerous times, because I kept kind of forgetting during our meeting this morning, is that I've always done a request for funding, which I was thinking was going to have to be done in the grant because it's an operational thing, but there's an IGA with the county, so it would not be done as a grant request then.
No, yeah, we discussed that very thing this morning, and I think we were all of the opinion that if there's an underlying legal instrument, an IGA, and the IGA is just, for whatever reason, insufficient to meet whatever need, that's a question of revisiting the IGA rather than doing grant requests on top of an agreement.
And obviously, in redoing the IGA, all 5 entities involved will have to approve it before.
Right.
So
Exactly.
you guys will be, because the county's been paying $60,000 for several years, where the IGA says $50,000.
Remind me who all is on the Gilliam County Fire Services Board again?
Persons or the?
People.
Roger Lyda represents the South Fire District.
Donald Jameson from the city of Condon, Bobby Christensen from the city of Arlington, Larry Eubanks from North Gilliam Fire, and Gary from the county.
The IGA specifically states the sheriff, so that's,
Your stuff.
that would be something that I maybe would request to be changed to the IGA. I don't know who else from the county would do that, but
Yeah.
I've been doing it for 15 years or something like that. Not anything we have to discuss here.
Yeah, so I'm thinking maybe next steps are to have that discussion with Ellen and Nathan about what that might look like if they were going to take on the payroll side of, like what would they need, basically, so there's some, and if there's an interest in being able to do that, is that what you're thinking, or?
Well, so, because I've talked to Ellen quite a bit already, so if the county was, say, the fiscal agent, if we decided to go that route, as far as benefits go for this particular employee, would they still just be the benefits that have been decided on by the Gilliam County Fire Services Board, like PERS, for example? Would we still just would they have their own set of workers' comp and pension and all that stuff, not necessarily county stuff, just because Ellen is the one that is going to be paying those bills and doing that?
If it was just a fiscal agent relationship, then no, they would not be a county employee, they would not have county benefits or anything like that. It would be up
It's just a
to
pass.
whichever organization is the legal employer, whatever's offered through them. It would have nothing to do with the county other than we would pay the bills.
I'm trying to remember back to when I had to do it, but that was an awful long
That was a
time ago.
long time ago, Sissy. And I have talked to Nathan, and he seems to be positive about taking it on as a fiscal managing.
I was going to ask who is the things that we talked about, that you guys ever had.
Look at you guys.
Yeah.
Hey,
I got good commission.
not just sitting around.
Yeah, you guys are great. So, so were they both in agreement then? Or did we have to go back and check with
There were a
them?
lot of questions. There were a lot of questions, but I think she was just looking at it from a becoming a county employee aspect,
Okay.
not
As
really
opposed
this,
to just managing them.
not just a fiscal agent.
So could we have sort of the takeaway from this be maybe that the two of you can have a conversation with Ellen and Nathan to see how this might be structured?
Sure.
And what they would need from you in order to make this work, and then come back to us with, here's kind of the plan that has been developed between And if it seems workable from Nathan and Ellen's perspective, I mean, I would
Then we need to
support
rework the
that.
IGA to bring it up
To accommodate that and other things.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
And keeping the sheriff on there.
Or just
It's
specifically
really
naming
not that.
Gary.
Specifically
You know,
naming
you want to
Gary.
get off because I'm really hard to work with.
But if we can use county council to do that, I'm the point person from the board to work with them to get it.
I mean, we're a party to it, so he would have to review it anyway,
Yes.
so I'm
Okay.
thinking,
And I think he likes being in on the beginning,
yeah,
like
yeah.
this.
So I would,
Right from
It's
the
a pretty
start.
simple
I would say that
document, so-
maybe the
Yeah,
county could take the lead
it's
on
not-
revising that and
Yeah, there's no-
the other, because some of our other taxing districts will have their own council that will want to review, so.
Yeah, it could be a long process because it's got to go through each one for approval, so.
And then would you foresee, would you foresee an increase in the financial ask of the entities on the IGA as part of that?
So we
That
did
would need to
discuss
be
that.
negotiated.
The cities have been paying under what's already in the IGA.
Yeah, and I can't remember how'd that come about.
I don't know. But,
Sorry, never mind.
so we've
Billing them.
added a little bit there. And the fire districts have been paying about $500 more than what is in the IGA. So we added just slightly, like $500 a year more there. And then nothing to the county, just put in what the county has been paying.
No, we've been putting in 10,000 more than.
No, what they've been paying over the last few years.
Which is.
Yes.
Right, but over the
60,000.
existing agreement, it's 10,000 more.
Yes, correct,
Okay.
yes.
So nobody's paying what it says in the IGA.
Either under or over, yeah,
Yeah.
mostly over. And the other $1,000, we have no idea what that is.
Okay,
Fundraising maybe or something.
I don't know.
interesting.
Okay,
Yeah.
so are we clear on direction? Does this feel like this is, be
Yep.
workable and will come back to us?
Yeah.
And then we'll set Ruben to work on starting on the IGA restatement.
And then-
So are we saying that we're going to look into the possibility of setting up a fiscal agent thing? Are we saying, yes, let's do?
I'm saying let's look into it, because I wouldn't want to jump the gun if Ellen.
Thank you. I just.
Right,
Yeah.
we need to make sure Ellen and Nathan are on board.
So I would say.
That Ruben thinks it's a good
A great
idea.
idea, yeah.
Ruben needs your input on the IGA for dollar amounts.
Because I would, yes, I
Get
would
it
like to.
where it needs to be.
You know, excited.
Okay.
I've been waiting for that. I would like to hear more about it too before saying, just, I mean, if Nathan says yes and Ellen says yes, I'm gonna wanna know the details before saying.
Yeah,
yes
we're gonna
to
wanna
it.
see what the new IGA says and how that's gonna function and.
Because the IGA, we need to capture that
Mhm.
agreement
Yes.
Okay.
on who's the fiscal agent, and what that would look like if that becomes us. So I think the marching orders is if the two of you can kind of circle back with Nathan and Ellen, explore what that partnership would look like, what any paperwork or things that you guys need to do on your end to make that work on Ellen's end, and then come back to the court with sort of a proposal of how this would all work. And then simultaneously, we'll have Ruben start, because regardless, I think we still need to look at the IGA, even if we didn't end
Oh,
up taking that.
definitely,
yes.
So we can at least start that process with Ruben.
Yeah, the IGA definitely needs.
Sound good?
Yes.
All right, that's what we'll do then.
Go to work.
Thanks, guys.
Go to work.
Thanks. Okay. Let's see here. 6.2, discuss CCO 2.0 contracting options.
I'm prepared for this if you want me to.
Well,
Go ahead.
so I had a discussion with Judge DeBolskas last week about this, and for those who don't know, the CCO regions have to be contiguous. And so in order for us to move out, if the court determined it was interested in moving out of the Eastern Oregon Coordinated Care Organization, EOCCO, which is who provides services for us now, and over to the one that services the gorge, Sherman County would have to do that as well. They indicated to me that they are not interested in moving, that they are staying in the EOCCO, which makes this a
Go
moot
away.
point.
Okay.
So,
That was
so we are staying by virtue of Sherman County
Making the decision. for us.
making the decision that they will not be moving. Their LCAC was very, very happy with the Eastern Oregon one, so they, so we are locked in with that partnership.
It is what it is.
It is what it is, so makes the decision on this end super easy. Okay, 6.3, discuss process for consideration of future juvenile court functions. Okay, so as I've been kind of updating you, our the existing caseload
Is this new?
is what new? Yeah. Yeah.
This wasn't in the packet that came,
No.
the email packet?
No, Kim,
Yeah, it was in the packet.
I feel like I'm just seeing it right now.
I'll go over
Maybe I
it.
must have missed it.
I'll go over it if you like.
Okay, thank you.
So, so basically, what's been happening is after I was sworn into office, Amy had an existing caseload that was scheduled for hearings and all kinds of things in early January, February. And so, as I've updated you guys previously, what we did was sign court orders transferring those individual cases into the circuit court. Since then, there have been a number of new cases that have come up. Obviously, I'm still not trained as a judge, so those have continued to be me signing court orders, transferring those cases to the circuit court. And so far, it has gone actually really well. The judges have been very accommodating for our caseloads, have been willing to come to Condon on dates they normally would not be here to hear cases, have made themselves available. We've had 3 or 4 emergency hearings that have come up even in the last couple of weeks, and they have made themselves available without fail for all of those. So I've been very pleased with that piece. And so I am proposing that we start thinking about what we want this function to look like long-term, whether we would like to continue to have it be the function of my position as the county judge, to have a county court, have a county juvenile court, or whether there's an interest in having those cases, having the jurisdiction of those cases being transferred to the circuit court. So what I'm obviously not asking us to make that decision today. It is a significant decision that I think the public needs an opportunity to weigh in on. And so what I'm sort of laying out is a proposal for starting that process of gathering information and gathering community input. So what I was looking at doing was scheduling an informational work session that would be really just our juvenile director, our DA, if he is available, possibly the circuit court, although I think that probably Amy can handle most of this, to just kind of give us an overview. I know when I came into office, there was a lot of terms that I needed to learn to be able to understand how these systems function. I thought it might be useful for all 3 of us to have sort of that basis of knowledge, so that when we're just talking about it, we've got some terminology that we can use and feel more comfortable talking about the specifics. So we were looking at an informational session, work session, where Amy can just sort of lay out, here's what happens if a juvenile, the sheriff's office comes into contact with a juvenile and there's a delinquency, here's the stage, the process of that goes through from sort of start to finish, and the same with dependency cases, so that we have a clear sense of how that current system works. And then I thought it might be useful for Amy to just share sort of what her experience has been working with the circuit court so far, from her perspective, pros and cons, that kind of thing, as sort of just a starting point for us to understand how this has been structured historically, how this looks under the current situation with our transferring of cases on a case-by-case basis. And then, so that would be kind of the groundwork. And then I'm proposing that we do 2 listening sessions one at each end, just to allow the public to weigh in on that. And so I would anticipate that we would probably do kind of a 101 overview for folks, the very beginning, again, really having Amy do that, just talking through, this is how the current system is set up, basically, so that folks have a better sense. I think sometimes when you say juvenile judge, the assumption is it's only kids that are being picked up for MIPs or curfew violations or things like that, and the dependency side is probably the area that most people aren't that familiar with. It's also the more complex part of the job. So I think that would be useful to kind of have that basis of knowledge, and then just really open it up to receive input from community members with their questions, concerns, just allowing that to be out on the record in a really public way. And then depending on the timing of that, then I would anticipate we would bring that back in to a regular court session to start talking about if we're happy with the way the system is currently structured, if we want to look at a modification to that, and what that process would look like, depending on what the decision is.
May I make one comment?
Sure.
One thing that I think should be considered is the defense side of things, because I know they have an opinion as to which court they, I think in your initial meeting or whatever.
Yeah, I think that would be helpful. And we can try if there's specific people that you would like to hear from. Circuit Court had said, you know, if we would like them to make judges available, or Angie, who is their administrator, available to answer questions about how their system works. They would be happy to provide information or send somebody if that would be useful to the court. So if there are specific people that we think would be valuable to hear from during either the first session or the listening sessions, where, you know, the public's weighing in as well, that obviously I'll structure and invite whoever the court thinks is going to be helpful to help us through that decision. So,
Yeah.
so does that sound like a workable?
Plan?
We'll start with the plan itself. Does that sound like it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And then in terms of scheduling, I was looking at, so the March 20th meeting, we will be in Arlington because we have a lead assessment hearing that we need to conduct. So it's the 20th, right?
Mhm.
That we did in Arlington. So I'm wondering about doing a morning session on the 20th. Amy is available to come up to Arlington to do that.
Okay.
Is that workable?
Yes.
Okay. Then in terms of the listening sessions, the 3rd, I'd originally put it on there, but that's going to be kind of a long day with the budget.
Very.
And so I'm wondering if there's another date in the evening that might work around that time, and sometime within those couple of weeks.
What do we have scheduled already for April 10th? As
That
far
is-
as other court business?
Budget committee,
That's the
all day.
That's the big one?
whole
That's
shebang.
all budget
I
committee,
need to get some of that stuff in my
10th and
calendar.
11th, if needed.
We've got,
I can't remember what's happening in April. I'm just trying to keep
Yeah,
March
so-
straight right now.
right now, the 4th is when we're tentatively suggesting the listening session in Arlington in the evenings.
And I was okay with that.
Is that okay?
Yeah,
Okay, that
I
one
think
will work.
so.
So then it's just a matter of figuring out the Condon one, and I'm wondering if, we could maybe do it on the 17th. We'd be meeting in Condon. It'll be kind of a long day because we'll do the SWCD.
That's what,
That's
that's,
just gonna say.
Yeah, and then.
I didn't have that date down either.
So we do the
What time is that
SW
supposed to be?
10 o'clock on the 17th, and then the regular court meeting in the afternoon. So we could do it after that.
And what time would you start it?
Well,
Hypothetically.
I I mean, I'm thinking if we want the public to participate, it should be probably starting at 5 so that people can come after work. So we could look if we needed to, we could look at moving all of the meetings. We could move our county court meeting to the 3 o'clock and even do the SWCD, maybe tour at 1 instead and just do a whole afternoon.
I like that. If we
Would that
push
work?
everything back.
Better? Would that work for you, Herb, on the SWCD? So we'd move that tour to 1, do 1 to 3, and then do the county court meeting at 3.
Yes. Give us a little break in between. Just
Okay.
a little small,
Okay,
for more food.
got it. And then do the listening session at 5 that day. Okay,
I think we could do that.
so we'll do that one on the 17th. Does that work? Did you capture that?
Yes.
Okay.
Can we backtrack to the 20th? What time do you want that morning session to start?
So I'm thinking, so in that morning, I will say that I actually was going to ask if we might be able to schedule an executive session to talk about some personnel stuff that morning.
Pretty free that morning. It's the afternoon that.
Is hard? Okay.
That I'm gonna be
So
able to
what
get
I need to check with Amy on her schedule, but what if we said that we start the informational session? Well, you want to do this first or the executive session first?
Let's do executive session first.
Can we do those separate? Doesn't have to
Can we,
be,
do they have to be together?
the executive session doesn't have to be tied to the regular meeting, does it?
I mean, it would be better if it was.
Are you going to have legal counsel attend? Any of these?
Possibly. Let's do, so let's do the informational session first.
Okay.
At say 9 o'clock, if that's going to work with Amy's schedule. And then maybe look at the executive session at 11.
Okay.
And then break for lunch and then do the regular.
1 p.m. meeting? Can we,
Well, it would be an 11 a.m. meeting, and then you would just take a recess for lunch.
Maybe we could only take a 30-minute lunch and
You know,
have lunch in or something and
let's have
expedite things a
lunch
little
in would be
bit.
great, because that would get me out of here for my other
Okay.
engagement.
Okay.
What do you think of that?
I'd be okay with that. Let me touch base with Ruben on, because we would actually not be taking action on what's in the executive session. So I just want to touch base on what the rules are about that to make sure the scheduling is good. But generally speaking, if you could hold that morning open and then we'll do the meeting.
And then maybe like a 1 hour meeting, keep the agenda kind of light.
I think we can probably be pretty, hey, look, we're at an hour right now, so I
Yes.
think we can probably,
Would spend more
It's just
time
that
on this
consent
than
agenda. It's
anything
that
else.
consent agenda.
yeah,
We
the
spend
consent
more time on our
agenda.
schedule than anything else.
Okay. So we're good on this. We'll get notices out for informational sessions, all that kind of stuff.
Did we set a date for the Condon listening session?
We did. That's on the 17th.
Oh, so that's the 17th is going to be both.
Yeah, so the informational work session where we have Amy just sort of laying out the lay of the land is going to be on the 20th in
Right.
Arlington in the morning. We're going to keep the April 4th listening session in Arlington in the evening. And then the April 3rd one, we're going to go ahead and move the SWCD stuff starting at 1. Leslie's going to need a half an hour break, so if we can do it in an hour and a half, that'd be awesome. Then we'll do county court starting at 3, and then the listening session starting at 5.
Okay.
Everybody clear?
It's mud.
As much. We'll send it out, so everybody's got those things. Okay, moving on. 7.0 court member reports.
I gotta go back one time.
Sure.
The listening session in Arlington,
Yep.
time,
5.
is a little later better for you, or a little earlier?
Well,
A
maybe.
little later is better for me, but if it's not good for you, then I can
It
wait
doesn't
till
make any
5.
difference. If I'm in Arlington and I can keep my eye on her, if I have to run away, I have to run away, so it doesn't matter.
What time works best for you?
6 would be better, but I think that might allow more people to, but I don't know, that might be terrible. It's just, And I can do 5 if that works out better for everybody else.
It doesn't matter to me
I don't
because
have a
I'm
strong preference.
I'm in Arlington,
So whatever
I have
works
her on
best here.
camera.
Can we do 6?
6 works for me. Let's do 6 on the 4th. On the 17th, how about
5?
5 so that there's not a,
Right,
Yes.
yeah.
not a big break?
Because I'll have to have a babysitter.
Yes.
5 o'clock.
Okay, perfect. Okay, we clear on that?
Yes.
All right.
Mine
Let's go over it again.
might need an email.
Yeah, definitely.
It will go out again, I promise.
Email.
Scheduling is the tricky
You're
part.
totally confused now.
Okay, so 7.0 court member reports. Leslie?
I don't know, I'm still back on the schedule. I'm not even sure, I'm not sure.
Did you do anything
I don't know.
besides sit at home in the snow?
I've been snowbound for a long time, but I did go to the waste management, thank you, down at the Arlington Deli. Thank you. And also I attended I was able to attend a 6-minute meeting too. The North Central Public Health District had a quick meeting, luckily over the phone because it was another bad weather day. And we just had to pass a supplemental budget as well. It was a $21,000 budget, and they're using it to buy fit testing equipment for respirators and also making it available to other entities. So law enforcement, EMS, health department, other entities will be able to use this as well. So it sounded like a really good thing.
You need a notebook.
I start one, please. My little notes. I have been approached by people from Arlington to maybe think about passing an ordinance to deal with the trains blocking the track out by Waste Management. But while we were at the Waste Management thank you function at the River's Edge Deli, their boss,
Dave Lowe.
Dave Lowe, who is the bigger boss, he said that he had an idea about how to handle that. So I thought, well, we might as well see what his idea is first and see if he could make some progress with that first before we jump into an ordinance. I was able to find somebody that was interested in serving on the North Central Public Health District Board, and I think Sandy has that on the March 20th agenda. So I was happy about that because I was tasked with doing that quite some time ago, and it took a while. I just on something that I've done recently, I did submit a couple letters on cap and trade, and they were basically just to ask them to keep talking to more people, give Eastern Oregon a little bit more a chance to weigh in on it. Our district, half of the state. Sent a couple of those off. And then also I heard that there's live music here on Saturday
Petrified at the hotel.
at the hotel. And also the Tumbleweed Tournament coming on.
Tumbleweed tournaments this weekend, Saturday, Sunday.
I'm going to try to drag my husband up here.
It's also Missoula Children's Theater.
Right.
Friday and Saturday.
I'm going to try to make it. If anybody else is out and about, come out. That's all I'm saying.
I'll be there.
Meet and greet.
Yes.
Mr. Weatherall.
Come out and we'll hang out.
Get me a babysitter. I'm stretching her name.
All right, Sherry.
I'll overstep that in your presence.
Is that it, Leslie? You got it?
Yes.
Okay, let's, Sherry.
So I did a phone meeting, NORCOR, on the, whenever that was, we did that. The 28th of February? February seems like a long time ago already. Because I didn't want to drive in this weather, and then I got to do it today anyway. Donald Jameson was appointed to the Budget Committee, and Kathy Schwartz from Wasco County was elected Vice Chair, and one of the sheriffs was elected Secretary Treasurer, but right off the top of my head, I can't remember who it was. The next budget meeting is March 21st, which I will be attending. And I also went to the Port of Arlington feasibility study for the Willow Creek irrigation meeting, and that was quite informative and interesting. And I brought you the feasibility, a copy of the study. And the irrigation committee met, but I wasn't able to attend that. So I don't know what came out of that. I think their meetings, they're going to talk about it again on the 14th, I think, so.
I think the 12th.
The 12th, oh, the 12th, excuse me, 12th. So that's it.
All right. I've got a few things. Where to start? First one, we are likely going to see a request from our staff here to reconsider our IT solution that we have in the building. The assessor's office is going to do a pretty significant transition in their software here very shortly. And there are just some ongoing issues with the server, some other things. So several members of the staff had a conversation with me last week about, I think we just maybe reached a point where our needs are maybe what's beyond really we could expect the ESD to be able to provide. That the expertise, the technical side is just becoming advanced enough that that in order for them, I think, to find somebody who could meet that level is going to be way more than what our current agreement with them would cover and things like that. So
Isn't that new software, it isn't just the assessor, but it's the treasurer and the clerk as well?
It's tax
ties
related
the whole thing together.
software, so it would impact, and it's a pretty significant, my understanding is that if our server is not ready for that transition, which is currently not,
Yeah.
then we will be skipped over. And other counties will get that. So obviously the assessor is very concerned about making sure that gets addressed shortly.
The treasurer.
Yeah, so I at least had a preliminary discussion with Jeff Schott, letting him know that this has come up, that I would likely be making a recommendation to the court that we go a different direction with the IT solutions. I've not had a chance to touch base with Kenny yet about that. I will this week so that she's not caught off guard. But most likely what will happen is that Kelly will go ahead if we're in agreement that we would like to see bids come back, that she will go ahead and go out and look for those bids rather quickly, and that we would need to either cover that in a supplemental or figure out some way to address it. It's just, we've had some issues. I mean, our system wasn't backing up for multiple days. Lane County, who works with the assessor's office on some stuff, was the ones that actually caught it, that it wasn't backing up. Those kinds of things that are really fundamental if something were to happen. We really cannot risk the county losing its main backups.
That was discussed at a county court meeting back, and I brought it up, are we being backed up? Because it was right about the time that I heard that the Arlington School District had a major problem. But I was assured that we were being backed up.
We were for a period, but something went haywire on Sunday, and a week ago Sunday. And
Oh, I thought it hadn't been being backed up for longer than.
it was for a long period, then they were backing it up again. Something went offline apparently, and like I said, Lane County caught it for us. They are not our IT provider, they were in the system helping with some other stuff for the assessor's office, and they happened to catch it and emailed and flagged it for Kelly. But otherwise we would not have realized that we were not having our systems backed up, which is a problem. So Kelly is sort of, there was one company that was in the building yesterday kind of assessing what our needs would be, and Kelly's looking at other options so that we have 3 bids that can come back and we can look at. I still want to have that conversation with the ESD so that they know what we're up to and the reasons why. It's definitely not, I would say, a reflection on the ESD itself. I just think our IT needs are very, they're becoming more and more advanced, and every time we add something new to the system, it becomes that much more complicated. And so just our needs have grown to a point where I think we need to look at other options. So,
As
Um,
soon as possible.
So that will be coming back as soon as it's ready for us to take a look at. The other piece is, within the budget, the previous court approved purchasing a county vehicle. And I think the last court had sort of authorized Steve to start looking into that, Judge Schaefer to look into that. As far as I can tell, I don't think that that got very far, and so I was kind of looking for direction on if you would like me to start that process, looking for a vehicle.
I would.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I just didn't want to do it without checking in. And then the third piece is the telecom attorney. I think I have identified somebody, a firm in Portland. I need to have further discussions with them, though, to make sure that they can cover some of what we're looking for in particular, helping us with our middle mile, what to do with that, how to sublease it, all of that kind of stuff.
Right, what are you gonna do with that fiber?
Yeah, exactly. And then if there's anything that kind of comes out of Frontier Telenet that may require us to have some technical assistance with, then that person would also, or firm would also be available to us for that purpose. So I don't have anything firm to report on that one yet, but I'm hoping maybe by the next court I might have names and proposals to share. So I'm going to aim for that.
It's a goal.
It's the goal. Okay, announcements.
Next week, we've got the work session, the goal setting session.
With Lindsay.
Yes, I remember.
Starting at 1 o'clock.
Or 1 o'clock.
Facilitated goal planning.
Tomorrow night, we've got the informational session on our grants in the we've done one in Arlington. We did the one in Condon last night, and about 24 people showed up to hear, so that was great. Lots
Yeah,
of
that
great
is good.
questions. People were really engaged, so hopefully we'll see a good turnout in Arlington as well. What else?
I think, so the stuff we just discussed on the 20th for our work session, 27th, we're going to cancel the joint meeting with the board and reschedule that. And then April 3rd, budget committee meeting.
8 a.m.
8 a.m.?
8 a.m.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully there won't be 1.5 inches, 2 inches, 3 inches of
I
snow.
hope not. I hope not. Okay, so next meeting, we will be holding, obviously, our goal-setting work session next week, the 13th.
Right?
And the next regular meeting will be on the 20th.
In Arlington.
Got it.
In Arlington,
At the Gronquist
at the
building.
Gronquist building. And that will also be where we hold the weed assessment hearing, for anybody that's interested in being part of that. Anything else for the good of the order? No, then it is 2:14, and I will adjourn this meeting.